I had always thought our marriage was steady, predictable, and comfortable, a safe harbor in a world that often felt chaotic. But when Sarah looked me in the eye last Friday and said, "You're boring. I deserve some excitement," something inside me shifted. Her words were not just criticism, they were a challenge. The kind of challenge that sparks a quiet, smoldering determination. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply nodded, letting her think she had won the moment. That evening she left for her book club, laughing as if nothing had happened, completely unaware that I was already planning a response that would change everything. The first step was observation. I retraced her week, her patterns, her routines, her little indulgences that she thought I never noticed. Every night out with friends, every flirtatious comment, every careless glance toward someone else had been quietly catalogued in my mind. By the time she returned, I had a plan. A surprise that was carefully calculated to match her craving for excitement, but also reveal how much she had underestimated me. I spent hours preparing, moving through the apartment with a focus I had never felt before. Lights, music, subtle arrangements, everything had to be perfect. But it wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about psychology. I wanted her to feel the rush of anticipation, the thrill of uncertainty, and the undeniable realization that I was far from the boring man she had accused me of being. Every choice, every detail was designed to build suspense, to pull her into a narrative she would never forget. When she finally walked through the door, the apartment seemed to hold its breath. Her eyes widened at the faint glow of candles, and the carefully curated playlist humming in the background. For a moment she froze, scanning the room for clues, unaware that the real surprise wasn't the atmosphere. It was the meticulous orchestration of every detail she had ignored over the years. And as I stepped forward, calm and collected, she could sense a shift in the air. The quiet power of someone who had observed, planned, and executed with precision. The excitement she had demanded? It was coming, but on my terms. Sarah's curiosity was immediate, her steps hesitant as she moved further into the apartment. She tried to mask it with a casual smile, but her eyes betrayed her. I could see the flicker of doubt, the faint awareness that something was unfolding that she hadn't anticipated. I let her explore for a few moments, letting the suspense build naturally. Every corner, every candle, every subtle note of music was part of the story I had created. A story in which she had unknowingly become the main character. I approached her calmly, keeping my tone even, measured, and just enough to draw her in. "You wanted excitement," I said softly, letting the words hang in the air like a challenge. "Well, I've been listening." Her lips parted, a mixture of intrigue and confusion crossing her face. She had expected a tantrum, a gift, or perhaps an apology for being called out, but not this. Not the controlled, deliberate unfolding of something that seemed ordinary at first glance, yet held the power to surprise her in ways she hadn't considered. The next moments were a delicate dance of perception and reality. I guided her through small discoveries, a note here, a subtle change in the room there. Each one designed to evoke curiosity, suspense, and a sense of wonder. She laughed nervously at first, then gasped when she realized the depth of planning behind every detail. Every coincidence she had ever experienced with me, every overlooked gesture, suddenly aligned into a pattern she couldn't ignore. It was a demonstration of attention, awareness, and the subtle thrill of control. And then the final reveal came, quiet, unassuming, yet impossible to overlook. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it carried weight. The culmination of hours, days, and weeks of observation had created a scenario that demanded recognition. Sarah stared, speechless, a mixture of awe, shock, and disbelief etching her features. She realized in that instant that her claim of my boring nature had underestimated both my patience and my creativity. I had transformed her criticism into an experience that was unforgettable, one that reminded her of the man she had vowed to marry, the one she thought she knew completely. By now the tension had built to its peak. Every heartbeat, every glance, every subtle reaction from her confirmed that the narrative I had constructed was working. I didn't need to push, didn't need to argue, and didn't need to explain. The surprise was not just the execution, it was the clarity it provided, the undeniable message that excitement can be created deliberately, and sometimes it comes from the person you least expect. Sarah's eyes were wide now, absorbing every detail, every subtle cue I had meticulously arranged. The laughter she had initially tried to force faded, replaced by a stunned silence. She realized, slowly but unmistakably, that the excitement she had demanded wasn't just a fleeting thrill. It was a reflection of how much attention and effort I had invested, of how much she had underestimated me all along. I stepped closer, calm and deliberate, letting the quiet intensity of the moment speak louder than words ever could. "This is what you've been asking for," I said, my voice steady. "Excitement. Adventure. A little unpredictability." But there was a hidden layer to my tone. A subtle reminder that it wasn't just about fun or drama. It was about respect, awareness, and recognizing that underestimating someone who truly knows you can be a costly mistake. She finally spoke, her voice trembling. I didn't think." Her sentence trailed off, unable to capture the whirlwind of emotions now coursing through her. She had expected to provoke, to tease, maybe even manipulate, but nothing she had anticipated matched the carefully crafted reality I had created. Every gasp, every glance, every tiny shift in her body language was proof that the night had shifted the dynamic between us. I was no longer just the boring husband. I was someone who had turned her challenge into an unforgettable lesson about perception, patience, and presence. And then came the subtle acknowledgement in her eyes, the moment when admiration, guilt, and awe collided. She saw me not as the passive, predictable man she had accused of being dull, but as someone capable of observing, understanding, and ultimately controlling the narrative without force. That realization was far more powerful than any grand gesture, far more thrilling than anything fleeting or superficial. By the time the evening ended, the apartment returned to its quiet rhythm. But something had changed. Sarah moved differently, spoke differently, and even smiled differently, aware now of the careful balance between underestimating and respecting the person beside you. I didn't need to say anything more. The surprise had done its work. She had asked for excitement, and she had received it, crafted deliberately with precision, and with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows exactly how to respond to challenges without losing control. As I watched her settle into the new reality, I realized that sometimes the most unforgettable surprises aren't loud, dramatic, or reckless. They are subtle, intelligent, and meticulously planned, a reflection of patience, understanding, and the power of observation. And tonight, Sarah learned that lesson in full.